Bracket racing isn't just what we do, it's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life. Hello and welcome back to the Bracket Life broadcast with Brandon and Counselor Andrew Stark. Andrew, how's it going tonight?
I can't complain too much. Just working away. Got our first council meeting tomorrow, so that's exciting.
That is exciting. That's why you're not leaving till later. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah. So that'll be all right then. You have to let me know how it goes. It should be an exciting time. Are there any big issues you're going over, or like just an introduction?
We'll get into that tomorrow. There's a live feed for the link for those who might be interested, but we'll get into that at a different time.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, that might be something I can watch on the road as we're rolling. For everybody that doesn't know, I guess we're rolling right into the Canadian countdown now. We are rolling to the PRI show tomorrow. We're leaving a little earlier than Andrew is. Rachel and I are getting picked up here tomorrow morning, right around 7:30 or 8. Mike and Vicky are coming to get us. Then we drive to Indy, to Lucas Oil Stadium, not quite to the stadium tomorrow, but to the hotel in Indy.
Yep.
So we'll be doing that. If anybody else is around, if you know anybody that's going, anything like that, let them know that we'll be there, wandering around for the whole time. Andrew is coming later on after the council meeting. So that'll be exciting. I'm really excited for it. When was the last time you've been to PRI, Andrew?
It was a couple years before COVID, I think. I want to say, 18, 17, maybe 17 of last year we went. I think we skipped 18 and 19, and then obviously 20 and 21 were no-goes for us for different reasons, but 20 particularly because there was one, right? But
I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back down. It's been a few years. It's been just long enough that I feel like every time I've gone for like 3 or 4 years and then, take a few years off.
Yeah.
Right. And depending on what it is, I mean, sometimes you just need to break from it because you see it all and you need something fresh and needs a little bit of retake. But I'm always excited to go back after a little bit of a layoff, particularly this one. But I think I got all my ducks in a row after traveling in the fall there to go racing. I feel like I've got my groove back on how to get back into the US. Like I got all my passport stuff ready to go. I got insurance stuff ready to go. I got some currency to go. Like it's back to almost old times for just remembering everything you need to put in place to go back across the border. It's kind of fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm not nearly that prepared. Very fortunate. Rachel has most of it handled, as she does with most things in life. Right. But it'll be good. I'm really excited for it. Like last year we went for the first time, brought Bracket Life down there, met a lot of people.
Yep.
It's a cool experience. I'm, obviously much more excited now. I feel we have a better direction with what we're doing with Bracket Life. So that's exciting for one thing. And then the experience of it, right? You're not as timid going down, right? You've done it. You've been there now. You've experienced and seen what you need to see, So that's the cool part. I'm excited to go back and see. And then, the connections we've made, I feel like we're, light years ahead of where we were last year at this point.
Yep.
So it'll be exciting, but absolutely.
It should be good.
Yeah. So let us know if anybody is planning to go or if we will see you there. If anybody is coming, we do have a Bracket Life hangout Friday night. I think 6. Is that correct?
7.
Rachel,
I believe
6 or 7. Rachel will tell me here soon. I should know in a minute. But we're doing that at Brothers Bar and Grill. Hang out with it. We have a section of it blocked off for us, so it's cool. Apparently, there we are. Rachel says 5:30 is when it starts. Not strict on it. Not like ridiculous. You need to be there 5:30. You know what I'm saying? But it should be a cool little hangout spot. They have pool, cornhole, darts, things like that. So yeah, something fun to do. Hang out and then
absolutely
get ready for when we roll home. But yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on here. Not a whole lot in the Canadian countdown this week. Not a whole lot of Canadian racing as we know.
It's
We'll whip
December.
through. There was some, right?
Yeah.
We did have some racers from Canada. Andrew, let's fill them in.
Yeah, so we had the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals at Bradenton. So the next 3 or 4 months will likely be filled with a whole bunch of times us talking about Bradenton, because every major event till almost March happens at Bradenton,
right?
Because that's the winter hangout. There might be a few Canadians in a few weeks next week at the SFG race. We're kind of waiting and seeing. We were talking about that off air about who was going, and we had a few candidates, but we'll wait to see how they do and then discuss that. But this week, the Outlaws. So the Smokies Garage team went down. Scotty Wildgus, the driver there, Mike Clark, the owner. They did okay. They got 15th spot in qualifying on a 32 car field. Got to round 2, and unfortunately, a red light ended the day early. Mike went out in round 1 in the 650 class. Melanie Salemi, who's Canadian, born in Canada, now in Buffalo with the rest of the Salemi family. Her husband tunes the car. They qualified number 1, lapped the field. Like, I think
By a bunch, right?
Yeah.
I want to say 500 or 600 almost.
I think at some point they were 5 or 6 ahead. I think it ended up being about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter when you have 300 on second, right?
Yeah.
Because the difference between second and somewhere around 14 or 15 was only like 5/100ths. Like, between top of the bottom half and like top of the top half, 400 or 500. So it was a great race to watch, but fortunately, Canadians in round 2, everyone, that seemed to be about it. That was our Achilles heel for the weekend. The final was fun, though. I don't know if you watched the overall race, the rest of it. There was some neat stuff going on in general, not Canadian oriented per se. Like Anton, I'm having a brain fade here. Top field driver,
Antron Brown.
Yeah, Antron Brown goes to the final and wins Pro 275, right?
Yeah.
And then you had like the Pro Mod final was Halsey and Jason Lee, both putting fresh bullets in for round 5 in the final. One hurt a motor. I think Jason Lee hurt a motor, and it was Halsey that put a bullet in just because the other one was worn out and didn't want to take a chance on losing it, and then goes 362 in the final in a nitrous car to win the whole thing. So just an entertaining race, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good precursor for some of the other fun stuff we'll watch from down there. But that's kind of about it. If there was any other Canadians out there racing this past weekend, I'm assuming it would have been far south, because there ain't much happening north of anything right now.
No, there is not.
But if I missed them, my apologies. But that pretty much wraps up anything I'm aware of that was going on in the world.
Absolutely. This is a good announcement. It just came up in the comments, right? This one you'll really enjoy it. Frank Mark puts it out there. Border Back Open Bracket Bonanza 2023. Andrew, you're almost going to have to park with Frank now. Frank has been going to the bracket for, he can probably correct me, I want to say 20 years almost, if not more than that, consecutively at Luskville. So it'd be exciting. It'd be fun to have Frank Mark back up north and back at Luskville. So
there you go.
That's great news, right? That's a great addition to the Canadian Countdown, because that'll be fun.
That's
it. So we'll jump into the meat of the broadcast tonight. We do have, if you're looking through, there are a lot of West Coast guys hanging out on here, checking it out for good reason. We do have the 2022 Classics TDS Shootout Series champion. That was, Travis's races, did the points series through their shootout events. So we have the points champion for top box, super pro, whatever you want to call it. The fancy guy here, Chevy Reeves. Here we are, Chevy. Good. Not too bad, bud. Good to have you on. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us. We're excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, bud. It's a good time. We've hung out before. Obviously, when I came to RAD Torque Raceway, which is your home, right?
Yeah, it sure is. It's where I pretty much grew up my entire life, and where I plan on staying for a little bit longer, I bet.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind. So, Chevy, for those people that don't know, obviously, we've hung out a lot, and we've talked a lot off air, just in general, even not just tonight about this show. We've spoke with you before, and your dad, time of IHRA stuff, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about who you are first before we kind of get into it. Like, I know that your family owns RAD Torque Raceway, but not everybody else does. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about, your operation and what you're racing right now.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start with some raceway stuff. So my parents, Rob and Kimberly, um, they've been together for over 25 years, and this is actually our 25th year of owning the facility. So they bought it way back when the facility was actually going to go bankrupt, and Rob is a part of an original 10 ownership group, and throughout the years, finally became the sole owner. Of course, I was born, pretty much spent all my summertime with the parents at the racetrack. Eat, sleep, breathe anything nitro, and anything that's going in a straight line. And that's kind of where the passion for racing started. We got a junior dragster club called the Nitro Rats. It's been around for God knows how long. It's like indoctrinated into our facility now. But I started that when I was 10, and I, to be quite frank, I sucked. I was not a good junior dragster driver. I won a couple races, nothing special, but I got my ass kicked all the time. Parts were breaking. We ran a bit of a shit show here once in a while. So no, it turned 16 and got into a top dragster, and I mean, been progressing there, following the sport more and more, and getting into it. I mean, it's what I love to do.
Absolutely. And I get it. I love the passion for it. I love being obsessed with every part of it, right? And you've seen every part of drag racing growing up. So I can only imagine what it was like to grow up. So let's hit into obviously your path to racing was easy because it was there for you, right? Since you were a kid, right? But how was it growing up there? Was it, something right away, immediately you were just obsessed with, or was there a time in your life where you kind of wanted to stay away from racing? Kind of how was that growing up? I'm sure you had a lot of duties and things like that you got to do, good or bad at the racetrack.
Well, I mean, being there pretty much 24/7 for 22 years now, racing and cars. I mean, when I was little, I've carried Hot Wheels around with me everywhere I went. So it never was really something I ever strayed away from. Cars was always something I was going to be doing. Usually you start juniors at 8, but I started at 10 just because, I mean, all my friends raced juniors, but my dad raced sprint cars for a bunch of time during his racing career. And it just took me a little bit of time to decide which path I wanted to go, if I wanted to go dirt or if I wanted to go asphalt. And eventually I picked asphalt because I just liked the community. I mean, I had a whole bunch of friends that I grew up with, friends that were neighbors that raced, and just good family friends that were a part of the sport. And that's what really kind of pushed me into the drag racing side of things. But of course, if I had the opportunity, I'd still love to throw a sprint car around. And I mean, I race on the road course that we got here once in a while when I got some spare time, just to, go out and have some fun in our little car that we got out there.
Absolutely. I got to try that out, right? Because you took me for a rip around in the Porsche for a little bit. That was fun, right? It's a cool experience. And you guys have a dirt track there now as well?
Yeah. That was one of the first things that was there. We got a 3/8 mile clay oval. And we got the All West Power Sports sprint series there, and runs, sportsman sprint, mini stocks. It's got late model, all that kind of stuff on every other weekend during the summer. And we got a 2.7 kilometer road course. We got a big drift pad. So every Thursday we got drifting out at the facility. And of course, our drag strip that hosts our big marquee events like the Rocky Mountain Nationals and our Hot August Night. So those are kind of our staples and what we're best known for. And of course, on the dirt side of things, we've got our monster truck throwdown, and that's always a huge crowd attending event. I mean, kids love monster trucks. What's not to love?
Exactly. And you were telling us also about how you guys keep busy in the wintertime with it's the Festival of Lights.
Yeah, so we got the Canadian Tire Magica Lights, and what that is, it's a 3-kilometer drive-through, fully immersive light show, and it's definitely something we've been doing for a long time. We love doing it. We work with a whole bunch of charitable ventures to, give back to the community at the same time. Believe it or not, our awesome drag strip team is the one who sets it up, helps run it, and tears it down every year. and they are, I mean, they're really the geniuses behind it. They're the ones who get the show up, operational, and rolling.
That's quite the setup. You were telling me about it just before the show there, and I've always had an interest in like track management. It's neat how you've been able to find events outside of A, racing, but B, the main part of the season, right? That you guys have been able to do there to, expand on just things to do, right? And how many, you were saying there, was it 2020 or 2021? How many people did you get coming through that facility in the winter?
Yeah, so in 2020, right in the height of COVID, pretty much everything holiday related was closed because social distancing, couldn't do anything really out in it for the families. So we had about 51,000 cars with an average of about 4.5 people a car. So we had nearly a 250,000 people through our gates in the month of December alone. It was pretty crazy. I mean, everybody was just blown away by the attendance, and of course everything's back. Non-COVID things are opening again, so we're slowing down, of course. So there's other things for people to do. Families can get back together, but we're still going pretty strong with it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because I didn't know a lot about the track. Brandon's filled me in quite a bit because having never been out west, right? You guys are insanely close to Edmonton, like comparatively what we're used to out here in the East, and maybe more in general, right? From racing, where tracks try to find these little places in the middle of nowhere to try to operate where there's no neighbors, no one around. Like you guys are 20 minutes, he said, I think, or 25 from like Edmonton proper.
Oh, less than. We're just a quick, 10-minute drive down the highway from, main Edmonton area. We're just off the beaten path, and it's a quick drive. I mean, for me to get to my house from the track, it's only 25 minutes, and I live right in the heart of downtown. So it's nothing far by any means.
That's pretty crazy. That's quite the different approach, right? Like, most places like close tracks are 45 to an hour, right? And everyone's like, that's close to a large city center, right? And you're 20 minutes down the road and you're right there. So that's really neat.
Absolutely. So like we said, obviously we were there, right? We talked a whole lot about going to RAD Torque Raceway, checking all out. We did a vlog about it and different things. So that's where we officially got to meet. We got to hang out a little bit, right? Awesome time. You were rolling through most of that weekend, carried it through the whole Classic Series, all 3 events you were on fire for. I believe at least 2 out of 3, you were getting your picture taken with a big check for that. And then, so let's talk a little bit about the racing itself.
Sure.
Right? So, like, how was that? That's obviously some huge paydays in there. Because you won the Oil City race, the $30,000. I
semi-finaled that one. I got
Crozier won.
Running up the main event, and then I semi-finaled the shootout at the end of the night.
Yes,
on that weekend.
Yes, absolutely. But you were making money, right?
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That's for sure. It was I mean, everyone was so happy to have $30K payouts close to home, and I mean, Western Canada has been, I mean, we've had big payout races, and they're just continuing to build. I mean, that was a awesome starting event for some of the 8th mile stuff that I've been doing. I mean, it really started back with joining the RAD team at the Fling in Vegas. I mean, I didn't really understand to the degree of how some of these guys are and what it takes to be successful at one of those events, and watching guys like Galiti and Ezel and Spencer Massey went all the way to the final. I was pitting right with those guys, right with the RAD team, and they taught me a ton. And I mean, just following that as much as I can, trying to bring it back to home, and it ended up working out pretty well for me. So.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So was there a different approach? We do find, and Andrew and I, as you know, and everybody else listens, like we've talked for millions of hours, it almost seems, right, about everything racing. We find a lot of stuff about championships win, different events, and you just brought it up about new tools that you find and were able to use from new experiences. So what is it that you changed in 2022? Was there a huge approach in your strategy that was different, or anything like that? Like what'd you mix up to get this, get the job done?
Well, I mean, I got a lot better on the tree this year. I was a lot more consistent. I mean, rolling into the first couple of rounds of the shootout, I went trip zip twice in a row. So I was able to really, really narrow it down. I think I was set up 3 for the whole event. And then holding numbers. I mean, I started practicing that, and holding numbers is something you got to do if you want to win. And I mean, you got guys down in the States and they're holding, 3, 4, 5. And if that, I mean, and they're dumping it hard and hitting their number dead. I mean, it's a lot to take in just in a few months. And I mean, I'm practicing. And I think that's really what helped me out, is just kind of reading the track as best as I could. And it's tough. I mean, I've definitely screwed up a few rounds because I didn't read it well at all. And I'm getting better.
For sure.
On the reading the track part, I'm curious about that, because that's something that I've been working on a lot for a few years, is just trying to get a handle on that. When you're trying to read the track, are you, I guess we'll frame that one, are you reading weather, what's going on the track? Are you reading track conditions? Like, there's a lot of subcategories to how people kind of read an event, read what's going on in front of them. What are you kind of looking for when you're talking about reading the track?
So I guess when I say reading the track, it's reading the track. So just racing myself, if I know I'm going to hold 4 numbers, I got to know what my capabilities are to get rid of those 4 numbers. And then racing the guy next to me is, what's he doing over there? Is he going to be dumping? Are they late, or are they better on the line than I am? It's just, reading all the aspects of the race. So I guess I could have phrased it better with reading the race start to finish rather than reading the track. I mean, if you're holding a few numbers, it's definitely going to be a challenge at the top end, just making sure you get rid of enough, but you just got to follow what the other guy's doing here a little bit.
Yeah. So it can be tough. Like, when you get depending on how the matchups come at you, right? To be able to put all this together and formulate a plan for the race, read the race out, you may not know who you're running until the very last minute. And it's a real art to be able to say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to execute this right now. And that can be as much of a challenge at times as well, right? You get 2 minutes to put a game plan together, right? So that's always difficult. Is that something that this year you found came easier as the year went on, like putting that formulated plan together as you got a little more comfortable with, the tree and execution? Or
for sure. I mean, like I said, it was just a lot of practice this year, and we ended up hurting the motor in my main car, the white dragster I drive, and luckily we got a American dragster that we have as a backup. That's my first car that I had, and that car wasn't running the best throughout the last few events of the weekend or of the year, and I found it easier to hold numbers because I knew the car wasn't going to do its job if I was being a little tighter with my dial. So holding numbers, it kind of made my peace of mind a little more comfortable, just knowing that, well, if the car is not going to do its job, at least I can kind of rely on myself to do it a bit.
It's a little bit of an opposite effect too from what most would, right? Like, the car's not printing numbers. Most people start getting well out of the comfort zone. It doesn't matter how many they're going to carry, right? So you almost took a disadvantage and made it something comfortable for yourself. Like, okay.
Right. And that's exactly kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah. And that's a huge mindset difference too, right? Like, a lot of people don't get into that whatsoever. So to take that, put it to a positive, right? That's a big move, right? That really puts something back into your ballpark.
For sure.
Let's switch gears a little bit, because I'm curious here, like the RAD Torque aspect of relationship with your family, your racetrack, right? Your racing program. Like, a lot of I think it's one of those names that's not maybe as well known out east as you might see through the U.S. And in Western Canada, right? Maybe I get you spend some time there, talk about a little bit about the relationship with RAD Torque. I had no idea for years that it was actually a Canadian company, right?
First time I saw it was on NHRA. BC. Yeah, they're huge. Yeah, I got to know them really well, not pretty good, really well over the past year. In 2020, the owner of RAD, his son Darian, started coming out and running some of our top eliminator races, which are 5K a day to win, and they're just a regular points series. So I mean, it was a no-brainer for him to make the trip up to run, and him and I started BSing and kind of became good friends. Started golfing, BSing more, and eventually I ended up meeting his dad, Dan. And I mean, he took a shine into me. I really enjoyed chatting with him. I mean, he's an interesting guy, funny guy, that's for sure. I mean, he's got a lot to say, and just a great presence at the track. And he wanted to sponsor my dragster and have the RAD name on it at first, and then we ran with that for a little bit. Kind of got family, the Provost family, a little more. Finally, Dan and my dad, and then we started chatting about RAD involvement with our racetrack, and we offered a few things to RAD, and they signed on to a 5-year deal as the title sponsor of our track. So RAD Torque Systems is a part of our race family, a part of our personal family, and I mean, we're RAD Torque Raceway all the way.
And then how has that changed the operation or the direction that the racetrack was going in, right? I'm not saying it was going in a bad direction at all before, but I believe that when you and I first started talking was just when RAD Torque had signed on, and we had started discussing some different promotion ideas and things like that. So how much did that impact you guys from where you were sitting, like how it felt as a projection looking into the future for it? Like, was that felt like a breath of fresh air, almost for it?
Yeah.
And then as well as all the massive events that you guys put on this year that seemed to really go off. So it seemed like really good timing.
Absolutely. Well, we were with Castrol Motor Oil for 15 years, and they decided they wanted to move in a different direction. And that wasn't just with us; that was with motorsports in general. I mean, they slowly pulled out of Force, then they pulled out of NASCAR, and so on and so forth. But when we found a good relationship with RAD and relationship as well, I guess having that personal aspect with RAD, where we hadn't had it as much with Castrol before, really kind of accelerated us internally to strive for bigger, better events. How can we promote further? Because RAD is such a passionate entity for drag racing as a whole and motorsports in general. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's straight line or it's got turns. I mean, they can embrace it tenfold. So I guess having our personal relationship with RAD and RAD's head with drag racing, whether it's event sponsorship like the Flings, he's got Dallas Glenn's Pro Stock and a whole heck of a ton of top dragster, top sportsman guys. It just made sense. Everything clicked. I mean, we were a family that loved motorsport, and they were a family and company that loved and supported motorsport. And I think those two things go hand in hand, and you just want to work the best you can with each other to keep building off of those passions. And I think that's kind of what's really making things fun. It's more enjoyable. It's definitely a great way to segue our slow time during COVID into new increased events where we can promote different aspects. We can host different things and just be an entertainment facility for fans and guests in the Edmonton and surrounding areas to come and have a blast.
And that's really cool, right? And so we'll highlight a couple of the bigger events that really caught my eye from a bracket racing perspective, right? Obviously the Oil City Classic, massive event, awesome one to do, right? I loved it out there. Love that format. 8th mile racing. Then the next weekend, you guys had a quarter-mile race that was 40 grand to win.
Yeah,
right?
per day.
So per day. So you have 2 weekends. If you're an 8th mile guy, we got something for you. If you're a quarter-mile guy, we got something else for you, right? As a benefit for everybody as a whole.
Absolutely.
And just massive events together, which is really cool. So that's, I don't know what you guys were doing before, but we didn't hear about that.
I think a lot of people didn't recognize until a little later on that the West Coast had 2 weekends back to back where there was $100,000 up for grabs.
Yeah.
And you don't get that very often in Canada, period. I mean, you see it with big promoters like SFG and the Flings down south, but in Canada, it's a little hard to achieve that. And we're proud to say that we did it. We didn't do it personally all on our own. We had the TNT group run their 8th mile race. We had the Top Eliminator Club run their quarter mile race, but they all chose to come and support our facility, and in turn we'd have them back every single weekend if we could.
Yeah, because you are like essentially for that area, kind of like the premier facility for what we're doing, right? For drag racing, 8th mile, quarter mile, doesn't matter, NHRA stuff, and then as well as all the show cars that you guys can hold, right? And I've heard lots of great stories when I was out there. I think the coolest one for Top Fuel stuff was, and I can't think of your starter's name. Is it Mike?
Yep, we got Mike Files, our drag director.
Yeah, so I was talking to Mike a lot about it, and he was talking about sitting on the starting line at your place, right? And the stereotype is, out west, you guys got snow and it's cold, everything like that. But staging Top Fuel dragsters and setting them down the track as snow flurries started to come in during a national event, like just a wicked story, to have there. So an experience unlike anywhere else, I would think, that's ever been on an NHRA or IHRA schedule.
Right. Well, dude, we live in the land of weather extremes here. It's nuts. I mean, you're having flurries in July. And who the hell would have thought that would have ever happened? But it did. It happens. I mean, we've had months where we had to cancel 4 or 5 events because it snowed, and it's like August 25th.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hot.
Yeah. And we talked about this when you got on. For everybody in my area and Andrew's area, just shed some light on how your day was going and how cold it is there right now.
Oh, jeez. Well, usually, around this time, it's, I don't know, minus 15, 20. Today it was minus 41. And fortunately, we hate to do it, but we can't have our staff and our machinery operate in that kind of weather for our light show. So we had to cancel it. And it kills us because, not only are we canceling something that we work so hard for, we're canceling, potential holiday plans for some of the Edmonton and surrounding area people here. So it sucks.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like fun. Not one part of it sounds like a good time.
No,
right?
Not at all. I be honest with you, I was joking with someone today about the forecast for PRI, and I saw 55 degrees Fahrenheit and rain. And that sounded like a tropical vacation to me.
It does.
And it's not even that cold in Ontario, right? Let alone minus 41 Celsius in Alberta and in Edmonton. So that is something else. I'm going to switch gears for half a second. I want to go back, talking about your racing in 2022
Sure.
For a couple minutes here. So one of the things I always found with every championship run I was on, there's always like a pivotal moment, right? Pivotal part was a race. It was a day. It was a round. You can go right down to that little moment. Where's that pivotal point on that championship run for you? Like, where do you pinpoint that?
It's pretty. It's hard to navigate it down to that. But in the Oil City Classic in Edmonton, and then in the race in Mission, right before, I was having a little bit of trouble, figuring out my tree because the final in Edmonton, I ended up going red. And then, of course, I missed the qualifier for the shootout, so I had to go straight into round 1. So I'm, worrisome there. And I ended up I went quad zip, and then the following round went trip, and was set up 3 the rest of the event. And then it was kind of the same deal for Mission. And I think Mission's where it really kind of hit me hard is I was struggling with the tree a little bit, and then first round comes and I go trip, and then I know exactly where I'm at because I know how that felt, and I was able to set up properly. So as soon as that round 1 trip came on, it was, that's when I felt comfortable starting the shootout because I knew where I was at, and I knew it was my race to lose, and ended up going the distance on that one.
Yeah, that's kind of a key point there, right? We found that confidence you need, and you turn the round wins on now that become that big momentum swing, right? And that's I can't tell of all the people I've talked to over the years, right? Championships I've been part of, championships I've lost, championships I've talked to other people about. There always seems to be kind of a moment like a race, right? And that's the one common thing. I mean, you watch NHRA broadcasts all the time, right? They talk about that. There's always that one swing, right? And, that's always the thing. That's, I think, the one commonality about points racing I always find neat is you always do find that pendulum swing at some point that that's that moment, right? And it can sometimes be little and big. So
and when it hit, it hit me hard. I could feel it. I knew exactly where I was at, and I thought, well, this is probably a good start to the race going trip, and it's how the last one ended, and I'd like to kind of continue it. So once that happened, I was really in the right headspace.
Yeah, and from there on out, I'm trying to think back. I know we talked about it through the broadcast, but from that event on, you were almost unstoppable, weren't you? Like you put up
I wouldn't say
there,
unstoppable.
Wasn't it? Or if I'm wrong, I'll take it from there. But I mean, I think you went to how many finals after that? I
went to a couple, but I didn't end up winning any of those finals.
No.
And I mean, whenever there's a Wally race put in front of me, I seem to choke on that pretty good. I'm 0-10 in Wally finals right now, so I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know why. Put a big race, figure out how to get there, and put a Wally in front of me, and I'll just fall flat on my face.
It happens.
I have the opposite effect. Don't sweat that. I'll trade you for a while if you want.
No, it's all good. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'd like to put something on my desk here once in a while.
Fair enough.
Here, this one's just for you. I'm 1-2 in Wally finals.
You already got a better percentage than I did.
Yeah. That's how it goes. But it's cool, right? Like it's a thrilling time when you're rolling, you find the tree, like I said, because that's the confidence that is so much higher when you can get a good reaction time. And then I like when you said it, it's your race to lose. That's the attitude. When you roll in with that, it's hard to beat, right? When you're walking around with that mentality, for everybody else in the other lane, like it's hard for them to get up to that, and then, once you close your mind to it and then can just focus on winning, like it's wild what you can do.
Yeah, well, and in Mission especially, I mean, it wasn't just that. It was, I mean, we were having fun because I was down there with two of my other buddies who are close to my age, Dalton and Braden, and we were all pretty much all day just rolling through rounds. I mean, the main event, I think I went out in the quarters and they both went to the semis, and then same thing for the shootout, rolls around and I go to the final, and I think they both went quarters or semis. So they were rolling along with me, and it made it fun because we were all pitted together. So that's a big part of it too. I mean, if I was parked with a whole bunch of dicks, it would suck.
Yeah. I hear you. And it's cool when you can drive away to somewhere else and then be with your friends and then have success as a group. You're not excluded, right? Because you, for the most part, I'd imagine know everybody or know of everybody around, right? But when you have your core group right there in the pit with you, like that's a cool time. What's up, Andrew?
I was going to throw out there, and I was curious about this. I hadn't thought about this. I mean, Alberta's like a 7,000 foot DA track in good weather sometimes, right? In the summer.
Yeah, not quite, but it's pretty high.
It's up there 6, and then you go to Mission, which is for all intents and purposes,
not like 7,000, not 6,000. No.
Yeah.
No. And then having some personal experiences here, just going to Bristol, which is not in Alberta. It's certainly not like a Denver, but it was up on a mountain way more than I thought it was. It was a struggle. What was that like difficulty wise? You're rolling off your home track up on, the proverbial hill of up in the air down to sea level, like equipment wise, racing wise. Was that a struggle adjusting? Like, I don't know how often you do that when you're out west there.
I didn't find too much. I didn't even do any jetting changes. I mean, the car picked up about a 10th, and we tuned it just a hair, but nothing crazy. And aside from that, I didn't see anything that was, out of the realm of kind of my normal operations. So, I mean, if you go to a place like Denver or something totally different, I mean, you got to, prep for that. But it wasn't too bad because Edmonton does get as low as about 2,000. Where, I mean, we were at about 900 while we were in Mission. So it wasn't a drastic change by any means, but there's times where, that elevation change is crazy.
No doubt in my mind, right? Like it's cool. And as Andrew said, we both were on the hard end of the stick in our Bristol trip for that. But it's fun. So we'll whip around, like we'll keep going, right, on the racing career. So obviously you grew up at the racetrack. I'm sure you did a bunch of whatever odd jobs through the summer and different things like that. You are officially an employee. You are the operations manager, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
of RAD Torque Raceway. So how does it impact racing? Does that change it? Does it not? Like, what's it like being the operations manager and being a racer at the same time?
It definitely makes things a little more difficult. I can say for sure I have a lot more fun racing when it's, say a private rental, like the Oil City Classic, or if I'm traveling, because, I can focus on my race team and that's it. But when it comes to, racing an event like our Hot August Night or our Rocky Mountain Nationals, sometimes I just had to bow out. Hot August Night is an example. I had to bow out round one because we were expecting about 8,000 fans to show up, and we ended up having 14,000. So we had some things we had to deal with, and racing comes second because it is. I'll look aside. It's my job. It's what I get paid to do. It's what I love to do. But you got to think, you have that extra 5,000-6,000 people that just showed up, and you had no idea who's going to restock the toilet paper that fast? Who's going to make sure that the ticket takers have enough paper for receipts? There's a million things flying through your head, and it's it can be overwhelming at times. Like, I'm not going to lie, it's a very reactive job, and it can put some stress on you. So when that comes, sometimes you just got to put your fun aside and get to work. And that's, I try to, facilitate myself in the best manner where I can do both with ease. But sometimes those unforeseen problems, which it wasn't a problem by any means, it was fantastic for
a good problem to have, right?
But yeah, it was fantastic for the track, fantastic for the sport. I was happy to dump my race and go get my hands dirty to make sure everything's all good.
No doubt. So what's 2023 looking like? I'd imagine the calendar's pretty full already for RAD Torque Raceway. How about, for your personal racing and the racetrack? What's it looking like? Anything new? What are you going to race?
Yeah, what are you excited for? I can start with a bit of a raceway calendar plug. So our three marquee events are all locked in, ready to go. That's our Rocky Mountain Nationals. That's the July 7, 8, 9, followed by our Hot August Night of Fire, and that's the August 9th date. And then rounding the year out with our Monster Truck Throwdown, the August 18, 19, 20. Our schedule is for the most part complete. We're hopefully going to go public with it for our brackets. Our road course go fully public with that in the next week to 2 weeks. That way everyone can get their calendars set. And myself, on the other hand, I'm just waiting for my motor to get back from Sunset so we can drop it in the car. And our plan is to head down to Tucson and followed by the Fling, come back up, run pretty much a full season up in Canada, run the Classic Series, do the Top Eliminator Big Bucks on the July 1st weekend, which I hear is going to be an even bigger payout last year. And if 40 grand is something to laugh at, if it's bigger, it's not laughable now. And then there's a few. I hear the Halloween Classic's just a fun race to go to. I'd love to do that, and of course, I'd like to chase a few more of those Flings or SFG races. But we live far from everything, so it really comes down to if someone's nice enough to lend somebody a ride for a weekend, and hopefully I can win something and pay them back. But we're still planning our trips, and of course, all revolves around our work. Our racetrack comes first, and we got to make sure everything's all set and ready here.
Cool, man. Cool. Good for you guys. It's exciting, right? I really hope that we can work something out. I'd love to go back, try it again. Now that I have that first experience kind of under my belt with it, I feel, there's a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I need to get to RAD Torque again and, improve my record. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So we'll see. We'll see. If all goes well, hopefully I'll see you sometime in 2023, whether it is at RAD Torque or one of the other classic events. We'll see what happens. But if Travis is watching, that is, we're throwing it out there. I know Dwayne would love to have me back out, So we'll see. One more question about the racetrack I just thought about, because I hung out at your canteen a little bit. What's your favorite thing to eat at the racetrack? Like, are you big? What is it? What do you guys have? The nitro fries or something like that?
Yeah, the nitro
I didn't
fries.
get to try them. I wanted to, but
they're pretty badass. So we got the Costco style fries where we coat them in Frank's Red Hot thick, and then we heat up some matzo cheese all over them. So they're a cheesy fry, but they got a pretty damn good kick to them. Those are awesome. And then we got some like broccoli cheese bites, and they're pretty badass. So we got a few things. We're always changing up the menu every year. So who knows what we're going to find this year that we'll try out. Like to maybe do a breakfast fries, do some tater tots, maybe throw some white gravy on it instead of some regular gravy. Change it up a little bit, maybe an egg.
See, now you're really selling me, right? You're really getting me on that, right?
That's what makes people want to come back.
These are the key racetrack talks that I think get missed in the world, right?
Yeah,
the racetrack food talks. So I like that.
That's, you heard it here first. Bracket Life bringing back the canteen talk. That's going to be the new segment.
Bracket Life food vlog.
Yes, I've thought about it so many times when I'm doing different things. I'm like, oh man, that'd be awesome. We'll think about it. We'll see. Maybe we might be onto something now. But that's pretty cool, Chevy. So thanks for coming on. For people that are paying attention, want to follow what you're doing, what RAD Torque's doing, where do they find you? Right? Where do they find all that information, everything else?
Sure, yeah. So for the racetrack, I mean, we've got a couple domains, www.radraceway.com or radtorqueraceway.com. All of our handles for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are all RAD Raceway. No hyphens, no periods, no nothing. So we're pretty easy to find there. Hopefully we're going to go through a new website development come January 1st and make sure everything is user-friendly, accessible for everybody come summer season. And then for myself, I'm just on Instagram and Facebook, Chevy Reeves or Chevy Van 1. And then lastly, I just want to shout out the guys who make my racing career happen too. That's, RAD Torque Systems. I mean, they're one of their best and biggest sponsors that we have right now. Of course, Global Power Systems. It's my father's company who helps fund quite a bit of it. And I mean, he loves to be there as much as everybody. We got Patriot Plumbing on board, Timber House Home Development, so custom home builders. We've got Maclock Buildings. And then most recently, Chop My Rays joined the Reeves Performance Team. So that'll be a fun one to have. And then lastly, we got Sideshow Fab and Paint. There's the guys that designed, painted my cars. I just threw some colors at them and said, give her shit. And they just did whatever they wanted. So they just finished painting my transmission last night. So it looks pretty good.
Cool. I'm excited to see the transmission because the car looks awesome, right? We were checking it all out when we were there, right? And it's cool.
It's really throwing bubbles on it.
Yeah, it's got a root beer feel to it.
Yeah, it does.
That's how I describe it. It's the root beer dragster.
Nice.
That's what you need to get on next. That's the next sponsorship.
It's main W on the side of the car.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, anything else for Chevy before we let him roll?
I covered everything. I think you had a great season. I appreciate you being on the show and going through this with us. A great insight. It was real neat to talk to you about track operations. I could sit here and I think we could have another 45-minute show going over, talking about like that's what I love talking about, and that's what I love hearing about all the time. And it sounds like you guys are really doing a great job. So
yeah, 22 years at a race. You can go on for hours of the BS you see and hear and all the fun stuff that comes around. I mean, it's never ending.
Well, if you want to talk about a real good, great story, a quick one, and I might have talked to you, Dad, and you about this at a previous time we chatted, was a hilarious one. When IHRA first went to Edmonton, they had no idea about how long the days were in the summer, and we were at a bracket final.
Yeah.
And we had some downtime. It was the last one at Norwalk, maybe. So that's maybe 06-ish, right? And they had someone from Grand Bend up in the tower talking to him, and they were going through their night of fire, right? That was the big night deal. And they had messed up because Night of Fire was a big fireworks show for anyone who didn't know, with all the jet trucks and jet cars. And they do it just at night, right? It's a night of fire. And classically, some of them hadn't realized that sun didn't set till 11:30.
Yeah, 11 o'clock rolls, and you're still thinking, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, so Night of Fire turned out to be Evening of Fireworks, and so we're talking to Grand Bend about this, and says, how do you deal with, having the sun up till 11:30 at night? And there was a long pause because for those who are geographically challenged, like myself, sometimes, as I've had in the show a few times, Grand Bend is 60 miles north of Cleveland, where Norwalk, Ohio, is roughly. And long pause, going, well, it's we don't have those same issues like Edmonton does. Sunsets here just like it does in Ohio. And again, long pause as the rest of the Canadian crew. I probably could hear us laughing from the pits a little bit, not trying to make light of anyone at the IHRA for their lack of geographical information, but it certainly was funny because Grand Bend or IHRA certainly had some issues with trying to figure out that whole Alberta situation when it came to their Night of Fire situation. So it was neat, and it was a fun conversation for us for years to come after that. But it was really fun talking to you about everything at Edmonton this year and what you've been able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, bud. It was a lot of fun. We'll see what happens. Potentially we could do this again sometime, right? And then maybe if I do get back out, then we'll start the food blogs right there, right? Yeah. We'll hit the nitro fries and the breakfast poutine. I'm going to hold you to that too. I won't let that fly.
Menu for you.
That's right. I will text Rob about that, or I'll send him a message and tell him Chevy said we're doing breakfast poutine.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to make it happen. I swear. Yeah. I swear on that.
No doubt in my mind, bud. All right. Well, thanks a lot. We really appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really cool to do this and get to know you a little better. So we'll talk to you soon, bud, and hopefully we see you at a racetrack soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Chevy. Talk to you in a minute, bud. Bye. Well, that was cool, right? That was an exciting time.
Absolutely. Great insight. Fun to talk to someone about kind of both sides of the ledger there, right? Get his take on the racing side of things after a very successful season for him, and get some insight on track operations, right? Like, it's not very often you get to talk to someone who literally gets to wear both hats on the same day, of in our drag racing world, right? So,
and somebody young like that has a different mentality of it, right? A lot of these, I don't want to say old heads of the racing world, right? But this is how it used to be done in the 90s, early 2000s, right? Like, to grow up through the whole thing and really see it through a different light is neat, right? And really, something that I connect with really a lot. So,
and talk to someone who's like next generation, right? Like, this is the type of person who we're talking to that's going to steer up the next generation of track operation, let alone like racing, right? So that's neat, and I think it's great to see, right? Because there's something I've probably been pretty critical of in my own world was seeing new ideas and new generational track operation, right? And see it from both sides. So it's awesome to see that out for the Alberta racers and the Western racers in general.
For sure. So thanks for everybody for checking it out, hanging in with us through the whole show. It's been a lot of fun. Like we said, before we wrap up, we are rolling to PRI tomorrow. Let us know if you're going to be there. If you're not, either way, let us know what you think. If there's something cool you think we should check out, send us a message about that. Winter Rumble Practice Street Challenge event coming up fast. It's actually really fast how it's coming up. Like Rachel said, it's like less than 10 weeks now, which seems like when she puts it like that, right? I'm like, it's February 4th, right? I'm like,
2 months.
It's a long time away. And then Rachel says, like, it's like less than 10 weeks, eh? Yeah. What are you talking? Like, can't be. Like, that feels really close. So it's coming up. Be sure to mark your calendars, book your room if you need it. Check that out. That is at the Fairfield Inn, right in Belleville. So they had deals set up. Everything's going to be good. It's going to be an exciting time. I can't wait for it. If you know anyone who'd be interested in becoming a marketing partner for the show, reach out to us. Let us know. A lot of episodes are booking up, actually specific, dates of it that we set up. So those are moving, pretty quickly. We're currently looking for any 2023 partners, as well as partners for the Practice Tree event, whether that's, a presenting partner, anything like that. If you want, door prizes, we've had a fair amount of people send some stuff so far. So it'd be exciting, right? We want to make it better for the racer. We are trying to set up with the racetracks that we can put on a little, kind of display thing for your events, for what's going on. Have someone a representative that you can talk to if you have questions about it, about a schedule, about this, about that, whatever. We really wanted to encompass everything. So if there's something that an idea you have or something that we can work to help promote, let us know. Want to check that out? Check all that out. Andrew, is that about it?
That's all I can think of. My brain is set on council meeting and then on the road. So
yes, sir.
I think we should wrap it up right about there.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. We really appreciate it. Let us know what you think of the show, and we'll see you guys all again in 2 weeks. Thanks, guys.
See you then.
Bracket racing isn't just what we do, it's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life.